Today we're in a place that was built from a utopian, futuristic idea that searched to create an idyllic social mix, a people's palace, in one architectural complex.
We are taking you to Les Espaces d'Abraxas, a residential project built by the Spanish architect Ricardo Bofill, known for his postmodernist style.
Located in Noisy-le-Grand, one of the new cities constructed in the 1960s to meet the post-Second World War population growth demand around Paris, Les Espaces d'Abraxas is truly a place like no other, and one of the strangest we've been to yet. The complex is comprised of Le Théâtre, with 129 apartments, 101 of which are privately owned, L'Arc, with 20 social housing units, and Le Palacio, the most imposing of the three, with 110 of private and 330 of social housing units.
Although it was rather hard for us to make that connection at first, Bofill was influenced by François Mansart and Antoni Gaudí in his work.
And for this project, he tried to incorporate the neoclassical style, packaged to fit into the modern context of Les Espaces d'Abraxas.
His intention was not to copy the elements of antiquity, but to translate them into the modern fabric using then currently available technologies in architecture.
This resulted in the primary use of reinforced concrete, prefabricated and transported in blocks to cut cost and speed up construction.
But while all this information is interesting, it is widely available online. So in this video we would like to focus more on how it feels being here, or at least how we felt.
The moment you enter the perimeter of Les Espaces d'Abraxas, it is as if your life were erased and you have been teleported in the future, largely imagined by many film directors in the past 40 years. The Fifth Element or the Blade Runner come to mind.
Perhaps this is why several futuristic films were shot here, including The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 and Brazil.
Nothing feels familiar here. The theater recalls the shape of an amphitheater of the antiquity, but seems rather cold and is too big. Facing it is the colossal Palacio that simply dwarfs everything around, including you.
It's as if two opposing forces rush towards one another seconds before a crash, only to be stopped by a much smaller and less intimidating 9-story arch, holding it all in balance and harmony.
I was immediately drawn to this building, probably thanks to its more human scale. It felt safe and shielded from the post-apocalyptic madness that was about to happen. The Palacio is truly immense and somewhat terrifying. While the outer walls are grey and rigid, the inner facades are in the shades of terracotta. You feel like you are literally inside a creature that is alive, immense and extremely complex.
The lifts here don't stop on every floor, and instead skip some, leaving the residents no choice but to use the vast array of staircases scattered around this monster of a structure.
Apparently, Bofill's response to the mass architecture task was based on these 3 points: the mix of functions, the reference on a human scale, and the quality and aesthetics of public spaces.
And while we see his idea, we think this is a perfect example of delivering the antithesis of it. The time showed that, indeed, the project didn't deliver on its initial goals and barely escaped demolition back in 2015, when then the new mayor of Noisy-le-Grand, Madame Brigitte Marcini, took office. Since then, Les Espaces d'Abraxas have seen several improvements, including rehabilitation of the complex with involvement of the architect himself.
It must be noted, however, that Ricardo Bofill has passed away in the early 2022, so only time will tell what happens next.
Going up to the roof of Le Théâtre was easily the highlight of the whole visit.
We were accompanied by a couple of super friendly and welcoming residents of Le Théâtre who told us their stories of falling in love with this building and making it their home.
One of the apartment owners told us when she first moved in, she felt like she was living in a futuristic comic book.
And you could see that she still genuinely feels this way decades later. All I can say is that it's an incredible architectural ensemble, but it's so utopic. It's just, I wouldn't even say it's utopic, it's something else. It's just absolutely bizarre to me. So we walked inside that complex, then we are standing on the theater, the one that goes around, and apparently funny story is when the Hunger Games were filmed here, the neighbors, the habitants, the residents here, they would look out of the windows during the filming, and obviously it wasn't good for the production. So apparently they asked and people wouldn't really listen, and eventually the director and the team settle down on just to see who is looking out the window. Then they would go to those apartments and then they would give them 300 euros just so they don't look out. But the residents apparently still kept the curtains open and they still could see.
And of course, we got a special treatment today because apparently the tourist guide told us he lives here since 1989 and this is the second time he's been here. So it's a really plus for us. So because not everyone can have an access to here. So it's like you can see the view is amazing. The views from here are spectacular and allow one to appreciate the scale and visualize the idea of the architect. And although we felt totally out of our comfort zone while being here, we could definitely appreciate the architectural uniqueness and the urban value Les Espaces de Bruxelles hold.
We arrived here early morning, expecting some film set type of a project, but left with a much deeper understanding of the complexity such constructions harbor and create. This is not your average residential housing. This is a small city bereft of the ideas and projects its founder had intended for it.